Hi, I'm Dempsey Palat, and this week I'm reviewing... Okay, so maybe I'm not, but you still gotta admit that both of these films have a lot of weird similarities, including how uncanny the resemblance is between these two. But in all seriousness though, guys, this week I'm reviewing... Venom was directed by Ruben Fleischer and stars Tom Hardy, Michelle Williams, and Riz Ahmed. Now, this film revolves around the origin of the popular Marvel comic book character, who's sometimes good and sometimes bad. Though, in this film, he's good. Sort of. Now, this review is going to be a little bit different than other reviews that I've done here on this channel. And I've done something similar before with Avengers Infinity War. Essentially, this video is going to have two parts to it. The first part is going to be a standard review of the movie, and the second part is going to be a spoiler-filled discussion, where I talk about a lot of things that many of you who haven't seen the movie yet may not want to know. Or maybe you do, I don't know, some people are into that kind of stuff. But regardless, I'm going to be talking about a lot of theories that I have about this movie, and a lot of personal opinions that I have about some of the things that happen, so you're going to want to stay tuned, especially if you really like this movie. But without further ado, let's start this review. Now, this film wasn't bad, or at least it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. Tom Hardy, as you might expect, is pretty good as Eddie Brock, and in fact he brings new life to the character. Now, when I first heard that he was cast in the role, I was kind of worried, but after seeing the film for myself, I can totally see what the filmmakers were going for with his character. However, I do think that he has a lot more fun playing the role of Venom. Michelle Williams, who I've mentioned before on this channel as one of the best actresses working today, seems to just be having fun in this movie. Now, while her character is important and she does get a considerable amount of screen time, she never really sells me on anything that she's doing. She seems to be just hanging out. And I feel like she's in a point in her career where she's just trying a bunch of things out. For instance, in I Feel Pretty, she did that thing with her voice. That very annoying thing with her voice. But I think that's cool and all, you know, it's fun for people to experiment. However, it just doesn't really work in this movie. You see, as I said before, Tom Hardy really sells me on his take of Eddie Brock. However, I feel like any actress could have really done what Michelle Williams does in this movie. She's replaceable. And Riz Ahmed, who is one of the most exciting actors to watch today, is just okay in this movie. And that actually makes me sad to say. You see, he plays the villain of the movie, Carlton Drake, who ironically falls victim to the MCU's villain problem, despite this not even being an MCU movie. He gets some screen time, a lousy motivation, and a swift defeat in the third act. And of all three leads, I was most excited to see where his character would go, but I was thoroughly disappointed. However, that wasn't the only thing that disappointed me about this movie. The first half of this film is very steadily paced. We get a good sense of who's who and what's going on. However, we don't really get a chance to meet Venom until about an hour into the film, and once he arrives, everything speeds up exponentially. And I know that may sound a little confusing, so let me just rephrase. The film holds a steady pace all the way until Venom shows up, and then everything feels rushed from that point on. I'm literally not lying when I say that a majority of this film feels like it unfolds over the course of one night, because it does. My biggest problem with this film, though, as I mentioned before, was the villain's lousy motivation. You see, when we first meet Riz Ahmed's character, we know what kind of person he is, and we know what he wants. But halfway through the film, that motivation changes, and it's never really clear why. In fact, the more you think about it, it becomes a little confusing, and I don't want to talk about this point too much because I have a lot to say about it in the second part of this video, so if that piques your interest, just hang on 1 second. But in conclusion, this film will meet your most basic expectations. It's got lots of action, lots of humor, and lots of fan service. But when you take a step back, it's not hard to realize that it could have been done a whole lot better. You see, this film isn't bad, but it never realizes its full potential either. And for that, I'm going to give it 2.5 stars.
Like a turd in the wind.
Now, on to the spoilers. I'm going to give you guys one more moment to click out of here if you don't want anything ruined for you. Okay? Don't say I didn't warn you. Okay, so I need to address several things here. Number one, what the hell was up with that line? "It was you, Eddie." What the f***? The motivations for both Venom and Drake change way too quickly in this film. Literally, Venom goes from wanting to destroy the entire world to wanting to stay. And this happens all in one night. As I said before, a majority of this film happens in one night. Also, Drake goes from wanting to experiment on people to being an experiment himself. Now, you would think he would have a problem with that, but no, he doesn't. And it's not like that doesn't make any sense, because, you know, it doesn't make any sense. And Riot's motives and Drake's motives don't really overlap at all. You see, Riot wants to destroy the world, and Drake wants to save it, kind of, but he also wants to kill people. Again, doesn't make any sense. You see, I think their merging was done more out of convenience than, you know, as a logical step in the story. It literally made no sense to me. And that rocket launch at the end was so random. You know, I mentioned before that a lot of this film happens over the course of one night, and as a result, it loses a lot of its plausibility. 2. She-Venom was really cool and all, but it felt like one of those things that was just done out of fan service. And as I mentioned before, this film does have a lot of fan service, but I don't think that in particular was necessary here. And that scene where Eddie Brock looks at her and says, "Not this time," was a little bit too reminiscent of that scene in Iron Man where Rhodey sees War Machine. I don't know, when I saw that I cringed a little bit. 3. The ending was clever and all, except it really wasn't. I don't really understand why Venom needed to say goodbye, especially when the screenwriters knew, when they were typing away at their little script, that he wasn't going to die. I think it would have been much better had they just hinted that he had survived the blast in the end, than having him just appear randomly in that conversation at the end and being, you know, "Hey, Eddie," or whatever. I'm sorry for the terrible impersonation, but you get the picture. You know, it could have been done a whole lot better, but as I mentioned before, a lot of things in this film could have been done a whole lot better. 4. The whole post-credit scene was cool and all. Like, I get it, we're going to get Carnage in the next film. You know, there is going to be a next film, but why did Woody Harrelson have a red afro? like seriously, I literally almost lost my shit when I saw him because I thought that we were just being introduced to a clown. That was until, you know, he said his name or whatever. But in all seriousness though, one thing that you guys might have actually glossed over in that post-credit scene was the prison that Eddie Brock actually goes to visit Carnage in. And for those of you guys who don't know, the name of that prison is San Quentin. And while it may not ring any bells now, San Quentin Prison is actually the prison that Scott Lang, aka Ant-Man, is in the beginning of the first Ant-Man film. Now, I know, it's a stretch, and it was already confirmed that Venom is not in the MCU. Or is it? It isn't. But still, why would the filmmakers choose that prison? Why would they choose to have Eddie Brock go to that prison? Why would they make that prison's name so prominent in a post-credits scene? And why would they choose to have, of all villains, Carnage there? I don't know. You know, maybe it's nothing. Maybe it's everything. I'm just saying that maybe we should keep our eyes open for the future. For the longest time, comic book fans thought they'd never get a chance to see Spider-Man fight alongside the Avengers, but look what happened. And now Disney's bought Fox, so much more is gonna happen. All I'm saying is that the door is there, and anything is really possible when you think about it. But I guess only time will tell. Guys, thanks so much for watching. As always, if you like this video, hit that like button, and if you're not subscribed, I would ask you please subscribe. I post new videos weekly, and I've got one more review for you guys later on this week, so make sure you stay tuned for that. Now, I've got a bunch of other stuff planned for the next couple of weeks, so if you want to follow me on any of my social media for updates, feel free. I'll post the links in the description box below. I'll post the link to my Twitter, my Instagram, and my Stardust. And for those of you guys who don't know what Stardust is, it's an app where you can actually review movies and TV shows yourself. It takes less than 30 seconds to sign up and another 30 seconds to post your first review. It's fun, it's free, and currently I'm in the midst of doing the 31 Days of Halloween challenge. So if you want to check me out or see any of the films that I reviewed so far, go do it and check it out yourself. I think Halloween's a great time to do that kind of thing and discover a bunch of new movies that you may have not seen before. But anyway, I digress. Thank you guys so much again for all the love and support thus far. It means the world to me that you take the time out of your day to view these videos. It really does. And I love doing them for you. So I think I'm going to get back to work. And I guess until next time, I'm Dempsey Palat. Take care.